We're in South Texas to try out the new Canon EOS-1D Mark III. We're joining travel and wildlife photographer Adam Jones, putting Canon's flagship high-speed camera to the test as we capture a range of bird species. We'll also learn some tips and tricks from Adam on how to capture stunning photos of birds.
I'm Adam Jones. I'm a nature wildlife travel photographer, a Canon Explorer of Light. I was always the young kid out in the ditches catching frogs and turtles and snakes, and the camera was just a total natural for me to get me out there. Come down to the Rio Grande Valley to photograph birds. It's warm this time of year, and a wide variety of birds here, a lot of habitat. We've got the coastal areas as well to photograph. On our first day, we met up with Gene, who owns and operates the Laguna Seca Ranch, and we worked out of 3 or 4 different blinds that are set up specifically for bird photography.
If you look at a lot of the birds in the U.S., they at some point will cross through here. Right now, I believe we're on 113 species at the ranch. Of course, you got the mockingbirds, both the curve-billed and the long-billed thrashers, pyraloxias, cardinals, of course, goldfinches, orange-crowned warblers, quite a few more. I just can't quite remember them all.
So what I'm looking for when I'm shooting nature and wildlife is extremely accurate and fast, responsive autofocus. And we just had a wonderful opportunity with about 9 or 10 different species of birds.
So what's your setup here, Adam?
Today I'm out in the field with the 1D Mark III. I'm shooting at 1,000th of a second. It's kind of my minimum for wildlife photography, but I'd like to pump that up to 2,000ths of a second, and that's where the really high ISO capabilities of this camera are going to come into play. 16 frames a second. I'm letting the autofocus do everything pretty much. I'm on the front shutter button, which is not my normal way of operating most of the time, but this camera is kind of breaking some new ground, so I'm using auto ISO, which I've typically not used in the past either, and hopefully that's going to give us some really sharp images.
The Canon EOS-1D Mark III is a high-end digital SLR aimed at professional sports and action photographers. Featuring a newly developed 20-megapixel full-frame CMOS sensor and Digic X processor, the 1D Mark III also has an all-new 191-point autofocus system that uses deep learning to track heads and faces. These features, coupled with a maximum frame rate of 16 frames per second with autofocus tracking, make the 1D Mark III Canon's most powerful professional DSLR ever.
Tell you what, that 600 is razor sharp. I mean, that thing's as good as it gets.
As well as the conventional rear joystick, a new touch-sensitive smart controller allows for easy autofocus point selection by touch.
I can move my autofocus point around by just running my thumb over a sensor. It's extremely sensitive. You can speed it up, slow it down, customize it. It'll hold that focus point, follow your subject through the scene. And it's proven to be very useful.
They're fast, aren't they, those little ones?
They are incredibly fast. I mean, you have no idea which way they're going to dart off to this side or that side or straight up, and it's challenging just to keep them in the frame, more or less have the autofocus keep up. On our second location, we had a cactus set up with some food baited in the top. The birds were flying to that repeatedly, so it gave us a great opportunity to test the autofocus capabilities of the camera. And I was doing auto ISO, let the ISO free to float to accommodate that 1/2000th of a second. Isn't that cool?
To unlock the 1D Mark III's maximum speed, you'll need to be in live view mode. With the mirror locked up, the camera can shoot at up to 20 frames per second with autofocus tracking, using dual pixel CMOS autofocus, which covers almost the entire frame.
I did some live view shooting, which I'd never done before, and it had the 20 frames per second on birds coming in for landings. It was just amazing at how well you had every little nuance in the wing movement with 20 frames per second. Is it for everything? No, but for some wildlife photography, it's going to be exceptionally handy.
In addition to its suite of powerful stills photography features, the EOS-1D Mark III also offers 5.5K 60p video, as well as DCI 4K and HD capture. Dual pixel CMOS autofocus is available in most video modes.
For our next location, we moved to a blind that was set up for raptors. big open field where we can see them coming from several hundred yards away, and these are bigger birds gliding in much slower than the smaller perched birds. On our shoot, unfortunately, we had an extremely windy day. The blind was just about to blow over, had about 40-mile-an-hour winds, no kidding. It was challenging. It made the birds pitch and roll. It was hard to keep a smooth track on them as they were coming in because they were having difficulties landing where they wanted to land.
Gene knows exactly what he's doing. It seems like as soon as he sort of steps back from the setup, they just fly in.
Exactly. He's got them well trained, or they've got him well trained. I'm not sure which way to go.
He's got them well fed, I can tell you that.
Indeed.
How do you feel about what we got today?
Yeah, we spent 12 hours in a blind today, but it's still a lot of fun to have this experience right in front of our cameras.
Even I, as an amateur, I feel like I got quite a lot. I think it will take some time to go through everything. Yeah, I want to get them on the computer and look, but I feel pretty good about today. From Laguna Seca, we headed to the tidal flats of the Texas coast in search of shorebirds.
So our next location, we traveled to South Padre Island. We got all kinds of herons, egrets, skimmers. Camera's not having any problem focusing on him.
So it's early in the morning, we're out here on the tidal flats at South Padre Island. What kind of birds, what kind of shots are you looking for out here?
Looking for action shots. Taking off, landing, fighting, squabbling over food, movement, frozen in time, that little split second where you get that just perfect shot. Also looking for mirror reflections. We've got this beautiful flat glassy surface out here.
This camera is much better at bird photography than I am.
We've shot with 600s with 2x teleconverters, 1.4 teleconverters, all the way down to 100 to 400 for some flight shots. Really put the camera through its paces.
A couple of pelicans out there fighting. Anyone else getting mosquito bitten or just me? Just me.
Last night we were out on the beach and shot the full moon rising above the ocean, and it was nice to have the backlit camera controls. Compared to the previous gear that I'd been shooting with, this is a major leap forward. Capture rate, autofocus tracking is just amazing. I can't get over how well it's doing. Just superb in following birds in flight, birds squabbling, running, whatever. It's just been an awesome job.
For DPReview, I'm Barney Britton. Thanks for watching.